you're on.
Hey, how are things by the lake?
Really nice weather at the moment. Very pleasant. We're doing the Christmas pig today.
We are, and I've got my Christmas pig text,
Ah,
and this is such a beautiful book.
isn't it?
It's not only, you know, uh, perhaps the finest thing she wrote page for page, but the illustrations by Jim Field,
Yeah.
the weight of the book. I mean, it's definitely a grandchild sitting in your lap. Turn the pages and enter into this story type of thing. I'm I'm confident, beyond confident. I was with real certainty. Unless the adaptation for the cartoon adaptation is an absolute clunker, and it
Yeah.
can't be. It can't be. They're going to have to retain enough of the story. I mean, this is going to be the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas holiday staple of the 21st century.
Yeah.
And it will drive people to this book, which is almost certainly the crystallization of everything Rowling does and everything she's trying to say inside her work. And also the Lake and Shed. It's she really demands a Lake and Shed reading of this. I want to do the I'm in the shed.
Yeah.
And so my Christmas time is in here. So I just grabbed these. I grabbed these off these shelves back here. These are Caspar, Melchior, Balthazar. Is that all three of them?
Balthazar.
Yeah. My family is like in the Three Kings cult, and so we've got people just give us. These are not in the box because a friend just gave us these. These are candle holders. Anyway,
Wonderful.
Yeah. It's that's a long story about how the Grangers celebrate nativity, but wow, Nick, this show, what are we doing here, Nick? Let's do this. Let's do this in order here.
What are we doing here? Well, we are celebrating J.K. Rowling's 60th birthday. John and I are huge fans of Japanese culture and Japan itself. And the 60th birthday celebration, which the Japanese call the Kanreki, is a very big deal out there. And it's because of their calendar. Their calendar is based upon the 12 Eastern or Chinese astrological animals. And then they also cycle round the 5 Chinese elements. So you have 5 elements, 12 astrological symbols. That's 60 discrete combinations to go through their calendar. So when you have achieved your 60th birthday, you have essentially completed the calendar and you are ready for a second birth, a rebirth, and it's a huge deal. They have parties for it. Their friends come round, their colleagues, their relations. They wear the most ridiculous outfits to celebrate this new life, this rebirth.
It's like New Year's. You come to the end of the solar cycle, and it's time for a fresh beginning, and it's like, but it's your whole life. It's like the single big New Year's celebration of your life. It's a marker for retirement supposedly, but nowadays not so much. But
as we're doing a Christmas show in the middle of summer, my little piece of Japanese Christmas trivia. Now, this is certainly true of Dainapon. I don't know if it's true in Okinawa, but they have a tradition on Christmas Day, which is not a big deal in Japan, but they have a tradition on Christmas Day of going for a Kentucky Fried Chicken to the extent that they have to book up months in advance or they will not get a table, and then they are rushed in and out of the restaurant with military precision. This was due to an incredibly effective advertising campaign in the late 60s, early 70s that really caught the public imagination. As I say, it's getting more of a big deal out there. They celebrate the jolly fat gift giving man. And essentially they have Kentucky Fried Dinner with their family. That is the Japanese Christmas.
Now, is it rolling really into KFC?
Now, J.K. Rowling is into KFC, so both John and I mean, we would give to Lumos anyway, excellent charity that it is. But John and I entered the lottery that is not a lottery because you're not allowed to run a lottery like that lottery. For the chance to have a KFC meal with J.K. Rowling. My secret fact is I really do not like Kentucky Fried Chicken, and there's very few foods I don't like, but I I'm sure proper Southern Fried Chicken I would find amazing, but UK KFC chicken I don't like.
I loved it growing up, but I have not had a KFC bucket in 50 years at least. So yeah, it's kind of a memory for me. Yeah, the big thing in Okinawa was New Year's, as it is in Japan,
Uh,
where because especially because of the turtleback tombs in Okinawa, it's all hands, and then you have to visit everybody. You have to visit all your employers and your relatives, and taking New Year's off is not optional. It's also very difficult for Orthodox Christians in Japan who observe the traditional calendar because they're still fasting.
yeah.
December 25th comes after the Gregorian January 1st. So it's yeah, hard times. Anyway, but fun memories,
Yeah.
especially seeing the incredible devotion to ancestors. Anyway, that was a revelation to me. Hey, but anyway, we are at the lake in the shed because
Because
Rolling's
this is our method of celebrating.
is Rolling's metaphor for her writing process is that she goes through the woods of her daily life and she comes to a lake, and that lake is her unconscious mind, is her core beliefs, it's her faith. It's all the books that she's read, that pile of books that she's read. It's also a lot of unresolved issues that her subconscious mind is wrestling with, and it gives her story substance, some sort of molten blob. And she takes that with some excitement. She can't force it, but she can wait patiently by the thing, hoping that something will come out of the lake that day. She sometimes says she walks away and she comes back and there's the gift. Anyway, then she takes it to the shed, and the shed is where she works on her story. She takes all of her traditional tools, all of her golden threads, things that she's woven through every one of her stories, and then she has her core themes, which are very much like her core beliefs. We're able to dig to. Now that so Nick and I playfully are here in the lake in the shed. Him by his beautiful pond. We call it a pond, I think, in the United States, in Wales, and me in my garage with the bugs. The last time we were out here, I don't know if I told you this, there was a fly, and it was bombing me. I was just like, anyway, flies are okay. It's the wasp. I have to do the transmigration thing. Anyway, Christmas Pig. We've gone through all the books. We're up to Christmas. There's not much left, and we got plenty of days left here, Nick.
Yeah.
So we're going to be asking for you in your comments. Please tell us what you want to be doing after we get through these books, because all we got left after this is we're going to do 2 Christmas Pigs because there's just too much inside here not to do. We're going to do Ink Black Heart.
Yeah.
We're going to do Fantastic Beasts 3. Wow, that's going to be a short shed.
Have we not done that yet?
Oh, no, we've only done Fantastic Beasts 2, and probably the least J.K. Rowling work in our list here. Cursed Child. Cursed Child is a lot. All right. And then Running Grave. I don't know if we're going to do 2 episodes for Running Grave. It's your favorite strike novel. Running Grave. After Troubled Blood.
I'm cursed with recentism. As soon as the Hallmark Man comes out, that'll be the best thing I've ever read.
Well, one of our readers agreed with you. Running Grave is number 1. Troubled Blood is number 2. Really? I mean, Running Grave to me is just a setup. The whole thing is so that she can laugh at you later, because the whole book, I think every reader says, how can they be so stupid to join a cult like this? How can they buy this stuff? And then we're going to find out in the next books about how much we bought, in that thing, especially Charlotte's death. But anyway, that's the game. But then we'll have like 8 days left, and we can do golden threads. We can do we can do whatever you want us to do. If there's specific things we've talked about, you want us to talk more about, that's great. I got a couple of things I want to do for the actual day. Chris, the birthday, we've been leading up to all this stuff, but we've got some tentative plans for those days, but help us out. Tell us what you want here. But Christmas Pig, Nick, this is the Lake book from, has there been a single Rowling work where she has explicitly said, you're the acknowledgement guy. Isn't there some comment in the acknowledgement about everything you think here is actually a real?
Yeah. So on almost every other book, she likes to play a fan court, in that, of course, this should not be read autobiographically when you know darn well there's just so much autobiographical stuff in what Fancourt's writing. So, and that, I think, was her little nod and a wink. It is, what she writes is fiction. It is fiction, but it comes from her lake, so it comes from her experiences. So you shouldn't absolutely read things as an autobiography, but if you look at it through a biographical lens, I think it can enhance what you're looking at. This book, all the objects she talks about, they're real objects. They're either hers or they're her family's, and she's spoken about some. She raffled. It wasn't a raffle. It was an auction, a charity auction. The diamond earrings. The diamond earrings that were so uncomfortable to wear, she never actually wore them, and then they disappeared. And then they miraculously reappeared with the publication of this book. So
they were found, Nick. They've
been recovered from the land of the lost, and now I'm sure they've been auctioned to a fan. And I just hope they're not too uncomfortable on the very rich fan, I'm sure, that bought them.
Are you going to read this last line of her acknowledgments? Or can I read it?
You read it, John.
All right. She thanks her family, and that's all very nice. All that remains to say is that any resemblance between the things, capital T, in these pages and the things our family may have lost or found is, of course, entirely intentional.
Yeah.
Not accidental or coincident, but that's quite the statement. I mean, this whole lake thing is very new to me, because I went to a school where the new criticism was, in your face. It wasn't textus solus. It wasn't just only the text, but it was textus primus. I mean, you really. Yeah. If you were going to, when you're talking about Homer and Shakespeare, where are you going to go with biography? I mean, some people say that Homer's a blind woman. I'm like, okay, but that's Shakespeare's a Catholic, and that informs everything. But really, you're left with the book. You're left with the play. You have to focus on the text. And really, of the 25 years that I've been a Rowling fan, and a rereader. All of it's been spent here in the shed, Nick. I mean, really, even when I go to the shed, go to the lake for something, it's coming back to the lake. And but there's such big questions, and why Rowling puts such emphasis on it. For example, if the stuff coming out of the lake is unresolved issues from her unconscious mind, from her, basically crises in her life, what was the crisis that inspired Harry Potter? Everybody just goes, anybody that thinks about it shrugs their shoulders and goes, I don't know, because it doesn't match up with any of the crises that we know about. I mean, there are hints of this and that,
Yeah.
but not that train, coming from Manchester to London. We don't know what that crisis was. It gives us Harry Potter. Now, this causes people to get really fussy about the biographical fallacy and such. And believe me, I'm that guy. I've read Tolkien. I've read Northrop Frye. I've read C.S. Lewis's Personal Heresy, and I'm a perennialist. You should read what Fritz Oshun says about people that want to, you read the perennialist through a biographical lens. Absolute disdain and dismissal. And I get it. But when the author herself says, you got to read, you got to understand where this stuff comes from if you're really going to understand it. She understands that critical biography is her destiny. And this book, I think, is her way of saying, yes, it all comes out of my lake, but the shed work is unreal.
Yeah.
I've said this before, maybe even in this very short talk, but I think this book is going to be the single book that is read in survey courses about J.K. Rowling. That this is the revelation of almost all of her shed artistry as a clear reflection of her biography. Now, and what is the biographical crisis, you think, Nick, for this book?
Okay.
I mean, we're getting into lake stuff here.
Yeah, I know we've talked before about Rowling's blended family, and I'd like to put a note of caution to that. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why Rowling has emphasized the things so much. So the things are from my life. When we look at the crisis of Christmas Pig, which is a crisis of a sister that doesn't know a brother that doesn't know a sister, mums and dads that don't know the blended kids, and that conflict of trying to create a combined family. I don't think we can transfer that as it's written to Rowling's family, because of course her family wasn't blended in that way. So we had a mother and a daughter, close-knit family unit, into which was introduced a father, a stepfather. So that I could see as a crisis. But Neil is the only father figure that Jessica has ever known. Most likely. So we know that Jessica left the family home as a babe in arms. We know that a non-interference order was sought for from Orantes, and we have no evidence of any parental contact at all post that date. I think it's reasonable to assume that they didn't have a close relationship. I mean, absent any evidence of any contact whatsoever. The
parallels there, though, Nick. I'm going to interrupt. The parallels there with Jack and his father. I'm sorry. There's he knew his father. I get it. It's not an exact lineup. It's not A to A type thing. But wow, he lives in a foreign country.
Yes.
He sends birthday cards basically and Lego kits. But it's
I mean, of course, there's also themes of sibling conflict, and that every sibling has conflict. If you are a member of a family, then you have stories of conflict with that family. It's part of the human condition, and some of that experience uh, may have signposted Rowling, but I think it's been made sufficiently different, quite deliberately, to avoid direct parallels with Rowling's family. Aside from anything else, um, this is the only book where we are tempted to draw comparisons with Jessica and the Children, quite deliberately, because J.K. Rowling is fiercely protective of them. I mean, fiercely protective, and
Yeah.
understandably. I mean, for me, it's quite remarkable that the eldest daughter of a figure so famous, so globally famous, is entirely unknown. Entirely. There was one
Except what her
newspaper,
mother has told us, right? She's a scientist for some reason.
uh, yeah, or engineer or something like that. Yeah. Um, uh, I kind of hope she's an engineer. That would make me happy. But yeah. So I think any parallels we draw on those ground are going to be on shaky grounds. And Rowling I think, has deliberately made it so it would be shaky. And I think why she has absolutely signposted, you guys who are looking for me in here, here I am. I'm over here, and all this stuff, that's all mine.
I
So
get it, but it's um frankly, I think Jessica and um her firstborn
David,
have this David have the same gap in age as Holly and Jack.
I think it's a little more. I think it's a little more of a gap.
I mean, oh well. I thought it was almost a almost a straight correspondence. Um, in that she was, oh well. That's um to me, this is a casual vacancy thing. You just kind of she can say um casual vacancy. She said, "I've met people like all the people in these stories,
Yeah.
but none of them are, uh, supposed to be taken as transparencies for specific
No.
people." I thought, well, yeah, she's met all those people because she is all those people. I mean, that's just so. I mean, um, that I don't think anybody struggles with that. Just to say,
No.
okay, that's an autobiographical book, and just like she was saying that Ink Black Heart isn't about the crisis that she was going through with the internet. It's like, really, but that's for future discussion. This book, I think we have, a heavy, obvious, she's gone through, she's got a child from a previous marriage, and she's got two younger children. She's got a stepfather. Does the daughter accept, because the daughter had a relationship with her mother, if not with her biological father, and that relationship had to change
Yeah.
consequent to their marriage on Boxing Day. Now that's also heard the marriage being on Boxing Day and this being a Christmas pig story. I mean, there's a lot going on there. And I'll leave that to the critical biographer. Except that I think it's so obvious that she's almost laying a trap for the lake people. I think you're suggesting that, that
Yeah.
she's laying a trap for you to say, oh, this means this, and this person stands for that person, and this and that, and that's what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. You've missed it. You've missed it if that's the case. Now I've written, gosh, I don't know how many thousands of words about the Christmas pig. When it first came out, well, one, it's a big part of my thesis, but I wrote basically the perennialist interpretation of that, and the perennialist interpretation is that it works on the 4 levels of reading, and you have to understand it as, basically the soul's journey and its transformation in the spirit. That's about as far removed from the lake as you can get.
Yeah.
And yet, if you're not, moved to tears at points and laugh out loud at moments in Christmas Pig, you're, get help.
Yeah.
There's counseling for you. There's medication, but
I know we don't have a very wide kids audience, but there's quite a few adults who watch this. If you haven't read The Christmas Pig, you really are missing out on a treat. Now, we had sort of a soft announcement for this. We had a header with this toy pig appeared as a header, and it was there for a few weeks. And everyone, we were all speculating like mad on what this could be. I was crossing my fingers for a children's book to make my prediction come true. And then they announced the title, The Christmas Pig. And I don't know about you, John, but I had a sort of I think it must be Rowling's least inspiring title since The Casual Vacancy. And at least The Casual Vacancy had an air of mystery about it, if you weren't up to date with local government, at least. Yes, so I bought my copy and read it on publication day with some trepidation, but it is a really, really wonderful story. So I do urge you all to take a look at it, not least because so much in it relates back to J.K. Rowling's life. It is or at least her things, and she's had some wonderful interviews about some of these things. So the one I'm going to signpost for today is the Blue Bunny, who is also within the book a really well-written, wonderful character. But in the interview, J.K. Rowling says, the Blue Bunny was also inspired by a real-life incident in my family. My youngest daughter, that's Mackenzie Jean, she found a muddy little blue bunny in the flower bed that had obviously been there for years. And just like the mother in the story, I said, it will break the washing machine if we put that bunny in the washing machine. But she really begged me to keep it. And she still has that blue bunny, which must have been dropped by a child in the garden a long time ago. But we managed to clean Blue Bunny up pretty well. So that was also inspired by something that happened in my family.
We've never seen a picture of the Blue Bunny?
We haven't, no. So we have pictures of, and I'm going to talk, it may sound a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm going to, on the next episode, I'm going to talk about Christmas Pig. We have seen pictures of both Christmas Pig and replacement pig. So we've got photographs of both of those, but we haven't got Blue Bunny. But this is the scene in the book that J.K. Rowling is describing. Mum, said the girl's voice. So that girl's voice is Mackenzie Jean. I found a bunny, a blue bunny in the flower bed. The grubby blue bunny rose a few inches off the ground, tugged upwards by a golden light. He looked around in amazement, clearly unable to believe what was happening. Leave it where you found it, Jeannie, said the mother far above them. That's J.K. Rowling. It'll belong to one of the boys. It must have been here for ages and ages, said the little girl's voice. It's all covered in mud. Blue Bunny rose a little higher in the shaft of golden light. Now he was hanging in midair. The 3 loss adjusters who were supposed to be guarding the gate were all so astonished to see what was happening that they walked forward to get a better view of the hole above them, trying to catch a glimpse of the girl, odd enough to like a muddy blue bunny. Mum, they've left him out here for weeks. They can't care about him. Please, can I? Jeannie, no. Not if it belongs to one of the boys, said the mother's voice. Please, Mum, said the little girl's voice. Please let me keep him. We'll wash him and show him to the boys, and if they want him back, I'll give him to them. They won't want me back, cried Blue Bunny in desperation. Oh, take me, please take me, let me be yours. But of course, neither the girl nor her mother could hear the bunny. Look at his sweet little face, Mum, said the girl. Jack heard a tiny clink behind them. The Christmas pig had pushed open the golden gates. Jack slid through them, still looking back over his shoulder at the bunny. Oh, all right, came the mother's voice, half amused, half exasperated. I just hope he doesn't clock up the washing machine. Now, this is remarkable. So, Rowling has rarely, but she has used authorial asides. Most recently in the Ichabod, where the author actually breaks into the story to give a commentary on what we're reading. Um, uh, uh, an artifact I love. Trollope uses this all the time, and it's a great thing to see. But this is more than that. This is J.K. Rowling herself being a character in the story, narrating exactly what she said to her daughter Mackenzie on finding the blue bunny. This is unique, John, and I'm assuming this is signaling to us that this is a really important moment in the book.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But mostly because of what he says before he's found. But that are we jumping right into Shed now? Is that
I
what you're
think,
saying?
yeah, that was my handover, John.
Oh my goodness. All right. I wrote, and all the links to it are down below here. I wrote, a perennialist reading of the Christmas Pig, and it wasn't just work I've done. Evan Willis's brilliant and day of release, I think, reading of the Christmas Pig as a perfect ring composition, as literary alchemy, as really psychomachia. And he lays out the key thing about toys and the relationship between a toy and a child, as being the psychomachian element. But most importantly, he spelled out just point for point. I had like 9 points fitting for the 9 parts of this book. The correspondence between Christmas Pig and Dante's Commedia. That inspired me to say, okay, we'll do the full Dante then on this. We'll read this like we read Dante. And that series starts out with the Jack Jones meaning of his name, which I can't go into it in real depth today. Please read the long piece. But Rowling's father's name is Peter John Rowling, and her name is a combination of John and Anne, hence Joanne. And she includes, Jean as middle names, this and that. And if you want, the good guys in Harry Potter have John as their first name or their middle name, or James. And those who are bad guys have Peter or Simon as their name. And if you're put into a hospital called Simmons, run, or the St. Peter's nursing home, run. That's Rowling has reflected clearly on, she's a big names person, and so here's her own name and her father's name. Basically, Christian history 101 is that Peter and John are the two disciples that run to the tomb to discover the resurrected Christ after the women have clued them in about what's going on. And the contrast between Peter and John, especially in terms of, say the Gospels, Matthew being Peter's gospel and John having his own gospel. But John's gospel, after Maimonides, is accepted as the gospel that you get after you've been baptized. It's the enlightened gospel. It's the esoteric gospel. It's the gospel towards your purification and enlightenment. Your full enlightenment post-baptism, theosis, essentially, or divinization. Everything, all the three gospels, the synoptic gospels before it are set you up. And Peter, as you'd expect, as St. Peter's Church is the Catholic Church, is the institutional church, the magisterium, all the rules and things that Rowling doesn't like about Christianity. That's Peter. Okay, that's the job's worst thing. All the rules you got to follow to be part of the club. And it's part about membership in the club, checking boxes, not about actual transformation. That's the John side of things. Well, she names her lead character Jack Jones, both of which names come from John. I mean, this is a double-barrel John here we got going into this story. The next thing I wrote and I laid that out in the first post. And then the next one was about just the traditional symbolism, especially the Christmas tree and the gradients of reality inside this book. And then, anyways, you have to read the whole series. I'm sorry, if you're a Christmas pig fanatic, you'll see it mind blown. I did love today, Nick. The Quadriga post, which really lays out a lot of stuff I'll be talking about today. At the bottom of it, you said, "I finally get the 4 levels of reading. This is great. But they're all very long. I apologize in advance for this being long. But the shed element of Christmas pig we're talking about today is the blue bunny. You notice Nick and I'm afraid my shirt comes off as black, but this is a dark blue shirt. I got my air conditioning boxes here. We're trying to highlight the blue here. The blue bunny, and this isn't the first time Rowling has done this with bunnies. We see it. A man named Ian Spence laid out, like in Troubled Blood specifically, all the rabbits and bunnies that appear inside that thing, and all the bunny. Most importantly, the aithorns with their giant ears and their buck teeth, and that this is a symbol of Pascha or Easter. It's like just the chocolate bunnies, and we have a resurrection story where Strike is on the Joan boat, the Joanette, taking Joan's remains at her funeral, and really pounding on the John thing about this being Easter Day. He of course gives his kids hedgehogs and eggs because he doesn't want to highlight the fact that there are no bunnies. But anyway, but then we get the full resurrection experience where there's Charlotte at Simmons' place, and she's dying, but Strike gets off the boat, intercedes, and raises her from the dead. And when they have their next interaction via text, she says, "It would mean something to me, except I know you would do this for anybody else." And he says, "Yes." Now, this is a real transformation for Strike, that he has really taken on almost a Christ-like capacity to love and to serve people. It's the knight image. But then the aithorns with their Lapine imagery is because they're this otherworldly element. They live in a room. Margot Bamborough is in a box there that they're guarding the relic, something out of Indiana Jones, right? And there's a big cross on the wall. Anyway, and it's sort of an occultic cross. It's an Ankh. It's an Egyptian cross. This is Rowling at her best. But now I think she's been saving it all up for the blue bunny, Nick. And the blue bunny allegorically is wow. Nick, you've already read the City of the Mist. That scene you read is when Blue Bunny has volunteered to help CP and Jack by diverting the guards. That conversation he has just before he's found, which the guards say is being saved. Blue Bunny realizes what no other thing in the land of the lost has, namely that Jack is a living boy, and that's a living boy. He came into the land of the lost to save his favorite toy. Only those present in the Palace of Power Deliberation, Santa and Compass share this knowledge until Jack shares it with the doomed surplus in the loser's lair to generate hopes in their hearts. So anyway, that conversation is just as important as the one that Nick read about the discovery of the Blue Bunny. CP and Jack are trying to explain to them why they want to get into the city of the mist. Because they're living out in nightmare country. Do you just want to live in nice houses? Asked Blue Bunny. Or is there another reason you want to get in? Yes, said Jack, before the Christmas pig could stop him. Somebody I need's in there. He's called DP, and he's my favorite cuddly toy. For a long moment, Jack and Blue Bunny stared into each other's eyes. And then Blue Bunny let out a long sigh of amazement. You're a boy, he whispered. You're real. He isn't, said the panic-stricken Christmas pig. He's an action figure called It's All Right, Pig, said Blue Bunny. I won't tell anybody, I promise. You really came all the way to the land of the lost to find your favorite toy, he asked Jack, who nodded. Then I'll be your decoy, said Blue Bunny. It would be an honor. I'm getting all weepy here. This to me is this is the moment. The bunny's recognition here of Jack as a messiah, sacrificial love incarnate, having descended into existence as a thing, capital T, himself, from up there, where he was a source of the love that enlivens object, is one of, if not the most moving event in Christmas Pig. Note the word he uses. You're real. Rowling has used the word real twice before as a marker of reality transcending what we experience in conventional time and space, the sensible world, the material reality. The first was in what she described as the key to the Harry Potter series. Lines I waited 17 years to write. The end of the Potter-Dumbledore dialogue at King's Cross. And in case you forget that, tell me one last thing, said Harry. Imagine the dry ice coming in here. Is this real? Or has this been happening inside my head? Dumbledore beamed at him, and his voice sounded loud and strong in Harry's ears, though the bright mist was descending again, obscuring his figure. Of course it is happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean that it is not real? That's the revelation that Harry has been in Logos land, and that this is the most real experience of his life. He has entered into communion with the reality that brings everything into existence. In a Troubled Blood passage meant to echo that dialogue, with head and backside reflecting the character's inverted grasp of reality, Robin and Strike talk astrology. You're being affected, she said. Everyone knows their star sign. Don't pretend to be above it. Strike grinned reluctantly, took a large drag on his cigarette, then it said, Sagittarius, Scorpio rising with the sun in the first house. Robin began to laugh. Did you just pull that out of your backside, or is it real? Of course it isn't fucking real, said Strike. None of it is real, is it? And the highlighting there when I said real and none of it is real, that's straight from text. That's not just John saying, let's make my case. Now, the bunny's simple declaration, you're real, i.e. from up there, the greater reality of the land of the living in which things have their awakening in the love of their owners, clarifies those other usages. Dumbledore shares his wisdom with Harry that the maternal love which saved him, first at Godric's Hollow and then in the forest, is the metaphysical substance beneath, behind, and within all other reality. Strike gives Robin a dose of his skeptical ignorance and nominalist first principle that nothing is real but surface appearance, subject to measurement and physical sensation, mental grasp of all things being consequent to that sensation. Strike has his revelation on the Johannette and at the end of Troubled Blood. His transformation is all about his coming to terms with what is real in that book and what is important in his life. Christmas Pig's real moment acts as a key to these others, one evidence in the bunny's response to the revelation of Jack's greater ontological status. He does a Dobby, right? I mean, that's the other one where if you don't cry when Dobby dies, as we say, there are crack dealers in Philadelphia that cried when Dobby died. If you don't cry when Dobby dies, get help. Anyway, the bunny offers to die for Jack, as Jack has done in his descent into the land of the lost for DP, a surrender of self to near certain death and being given to the loser he considers an honor. The bunny acts spontaneously and selflessly as a decoy, a saving replacement, in other words, for the living boy, as Dobby did for the boy who lived. The pathetic distraction that saved the DP rescue mission in Mislaid despite himself. Remember that we first meet him in Mislaid, and he acts as a distraction there, probably unwillingly, right? Crying out in desperation for his own existence, has metamorphized consequent to his experience with Broken Angel, and in Jack's example, into a heroic decoy that allows Jack and CP to enter the city of the mist. There's a really strong Dobby parallels here. The Blue Bunny makes out better than the house elf. Yeah. And this is the key event in the book, and the best evidence since the death of Lily Potter, Harry's defeat of Quirrell, and the demise of the Dark Lord, that mother's love is Rowling's default symbolism for Christian love in her writing. Nick, should I say that again? Mother's love is Rowling's default symbolism for Christian love in her writing. The bunny's choice to act as a decoy, his decision to die to his ego self, generates the life-saving appearance of maternal love, J.K. Rowling and Jeannie, and its equivalent in the transference attachment a child feels for a beloved toy. The Johannine quality of the light that shines down on him from the finding hole in his Elijah-esque elevation nails down this logos love correspondence. Jeannie here is a John. Her middle name is actually Jean. And we've said before that that's almost certainly a John reference. A John acting as something of a genie saves the Blue Bunny as his sacrificial love created the corresponding opening in the finding hole, a parallel with how Jack's thoughts of his mother created Crusher's opening to the up there. Remember when Crusher's boot comes down, it looks really, that's one of those really bad moments in Christmas Pig. The boot is about to just destroy CP and Jack, and he thinks of his mother and grabs CP's, what do you call it, his paw, his hand. And CP has this bizarro moment of inspiration that says, just wait, something really big is about to happen. And the sky's open. It's the only other real great finding inside Christmas Pig. And it's Jack's thoughts of his mother, which created Crusher's opening to the up there. The real John of Christmas Pig, though, is Jack Jones, both of whose names derive from John. Jack in the Loser's Lair calls the surplus to hope, as the bunny did in his column of life, and in him as the living boy who loves them. In his role as replacement there, joining the Christmas Pig, who took that role from the moment of his alivening in Holly's remorse, shows all the messianic traits that Rowling said she invested in Harry Potter. And in case you missed this, okay, the lost adjusters at the City of the Mist Gates used the word saved as a synonym for the usual land of the lost term found. When's the last time you saw a bit of surplus saved? Right? Now, this is running at the whole situation we're seeing here in terms of the land of the living and the land of the lost is Rowling's allegorical, powerful setting for this entire story. Three tit for tats here on the allegorical level. The first is simply that Jack's land of the lost is Plato's cave, our world. everything around you, what C.S. Lewis described as the Shadowlands. Every lost thing from this view is a more realistic depiction of our human existence than our day-to-day profane understanding of our life in this world. In the sub-creation, in which the loser and his servants are the ruler and the agents of his law, respectively, we are meant to see fallen existence, which is to say Satan's realm, and all the cutting, divisive instruments of evil and of power in our world. What in Rowling's predominant metaphor is the Petrine dimension of human life. This is the Peter side of living. Reality in the land of the lost is not in the experience of Mislaid, its three cities, or the wastes, all of which are temporary unless the loser consumes a thing. The reality is in the up there, the superlunary world of light and love, a much greater plane of existence from which everything is made, has its origin, and to which, except in perverse cases like the Hobnail Boot Crusher, all created things long to return. Crusher actually fights being found. That's a great thing about just how bad these lost adjusters are. Just as Lunchy looks longingly up at the finding hole in the disposable saloon in hope of light descending to claim her, to save her, so the things in the land of the lost all have as their natural and correct orientation this otherworldly focus and a consequent disdain of sorts beyond their fear of the loser for the station in life and world in which they find themselves. Now, maybe I'm beating this to death, Nick. I'm sorry if I'm going to just give you the allegorical thing here, but maybe it's obvious to you. But this is a story depiction of the traditional or theocentric understanding of man in the world. Man is an image of God, a shadow of his greater self, an iconic quality most evident in his soul, created by the word of God, his logos, and having something of this creative aspect of the light of the world within him. That's John. That's the prologue to John. Man's purpose and destiny via the Creator's design is to live intentionally in hope and happiness. That's the big deal, right? Hope and happiness, to foster both his communion with up there via the creative principle of selfless love, and in this to ensure his return to the world of light above the shadowlands of this temporal life, at death. Rowling, in a charming Christmas story, smuggles the traditional idea of human life and its origin and end in God through Christ past the sleeping dragons of our de facto atheist age and its myriad lost adjusters. They're everywhere, Nick. If that weren't enough, we have specifically Jax being a second Dante traveling through the Commedia's three dimensions, which is to say an explicit Christian allegory of the soul's journey to perfection in spirit, with his guide, the Christmas pig, and then Der Pig, and then Santa, as parallel to Dante's Virgil, Beatrice, and St. Bernard. That's all from Evan Willis, right? Jack journeys from the agonies of his life in the forest dark, the straightforward past having been lost, to the beatific vision of salvific, sanctifying, spiraling light, the white rose beyond paradise. This end is prefigured in Christmas Pig by the snow which swirled against the blackening sky outside his window when Jack was waiting to enter the land of the lost, the night he enters the land of the lost, as well as by his experience with Der Pig Mom and the recycling bin. Just as Rowling told Direct, the Dutch interview, just as she said she had done with Harry Potter, this Christian everyman and hero is given certain messianic traits quite deliberately. Jack saves the things in the loser's lair, and by extension, all things in the lands of the lost, by being that person who descended from heaven in love for fallen creation. That's that person there being in Greek hypostasis, one of the three persons of the Trinity. He descends in love for fallen creation, objects his love brought into their enlivened or animated existence, ensouled existence. He becomes their means to escape death and the loser's dominion by becoming the locus of their hope and faith of their greater life. Okay. Jack, which this is a step away from Dante, right? He becomes the cause of the spiraling light that literally lifts up the least of things, the surplus refuse, into the up there of heaven. The loser's anger with the thing who cry out, "Not the boy," is the story figure of the petron voices of the world that want all believers in God's love to despise their creator, and any longing they feel for him is childish. What properly should be hatred of the absolute is the cause of their current condition. Yeah. This is the wonder of Christmas Pig, is that we have this Christmas setting of the story, this allegorical dimension of the layered things of being. As with the Nativity of Christ, has as its root power not in the birth of the Savior, essential as Jack's incarnation as a thing by his choice to descend into lesser realm to save DP is, but the Paschal symbolism of the book. Christ becomes a man that man might become God, according to Athanasian formula. Christ is born on the night of miracles and lost causes. So the incarnate Logos will in the end die without sin, beguiling the beguiler. That's for Beatrice. And thereby become the means in that death and return to life, not to mention his harrowing of hell, the despoiling of Hades, to the human potential for eternal life as a members of his risen mystical body. Speaking of which, Christians hope for eternal life and becoming members of Christ's body, which has risen from the dead. That's why you become a member of the church. The loser apes that kind of membership and is plastering the dismembered remains of the things from whose body he has sucked the alive and bit to his exterior self, his Luciferian mechanistic body. In a bumper sticker, Nick, Easter is the heart of the Christmas Pig. That ending is a straight Paschal allegory and a depiction of what we long to do. We're all things wanting to be found or saved. And we have our messianic hope in this Johannine theology from Jack Jones. This is a wow. So we do all the shed stuff. We get all the things about the animals, and we get rolling, talking about the love of a toy. That's really her. Jack sucking on the pig's ear like it's the mother's nipple. Really making the transference thing obvious, and that the mother's love is her symbol for selfless, sacrificial, unconditional love, which is a cipher for Christ. This story, it's not just a Christian thing. This is just how she sneaks these things past the watchful dragons and C.S. Lewis stage. This is such a wow. And you know what? It's the allegory is just the setting. The climactic scene I want to talk about tomorrow, if anybody's still listening, is
wait, there's more?
There's more. Seriously, the biggest thing to me is the psychomachian, the anagogical piece of it, and that's in the Palace of Power. But anyway, Nick, what are you going to talk about tomorrow? What is?
Well, that's a good question. So I've dipped the big one. I haven't talked about Christmas Pig at all, or his real life counterpart. But I'm going to take us. I'm going to take us on a Genesis story, some of which we know, and some of which I'm going to theorize on how the idea of Christmas Pig came to J.K. Rowling.
That's magnificent, because that will set up all these things.
There's another bunny.
There's another bunny.
There's another bunny.
Okay, I look forward to this. I mean, seriously, the takeaway from Christmas Pig: don't make it about Rowling appearing in the book, and don't make it about the shed artistry, as magnificent as it is, because you're missing Rowling's lake and shed method. She has these experiences, and she takes them to the shed, all these unresolved issues. And those unresolved issues, her first marriage, birth of her child, the nightmare escape, and then her finding true love and having more children, and the conflict of stepfather, stepdaughter, older daughter, old family versus, new children, moms having split attention. Yeah, go ahead, do the psychobiography if you want. But if you don't understand those things in the context of how she transforms them, that's her genius. That's the magnificent thing. If you're going to do a critical biography, make it about transformation, about how she takes her ideas of soul and her really esoteric and dynamic beliefs in transformation in Christ, and how she lays those over. Again, it's like the Japanese knife sword making, Nick, with the pounding of that edge. This is artistry of the first rank. People laughed at me when I said that Rowling's literary alchemy was a throwback to Shakespeare, in some sense much more accessible and meaningful in that way than a lot of Shakespeare is for us today. I was accused of saying that Rowling was better than Shakespeare, but here I want to say that Rowling is much more accessible and meaningful than the Dante, whose template she's lifted, not shamelessly, but clearly in the sense of just absolute love and devotion. Waxing rhapsodic.
Wonderful, John.
Anyway, so we'll be back tomorrow with
yes,
even more about the Christmas pig.
Look forward to it. Take care, John.